Here we'll discuss changes and helpful reminders as you prepare for the end of year one data submission. End of year one has three key data collections: CTE, course completion, and work-based learning. This data is collected to satisfy the requirements of Carl Perkins legislation and the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, in the form of college and career indicators on the California School Dashboard. The files that are used to submit this data are the student enrollment, or SENR file, which is used to establish student ownership at the LEA. In terms of EOY 1, student enrollment is needed to correspond with the student course section completion, student career technical education, and work-based learning records. Next, the staff demographic, or SDEM record, is needed to ensure that SEIDs, or seeds, associated to course section completion records have SDEM records in CalPads. Next, we have the course section completion, or CRSC record. These are needed for every official grading period except for summer school, college courses notwithstanding. We then have the student course section completion, or SCSC record. This is used to report student course completion and academic results, as well as CTE participation. We then have the Student Career Technical Education, or SCTE file, which is used to report CTE completers, but must align with pathways and capstone courses reported in the SCSC records. Finally, we have the Work-Based Learning, or WBLR record, which is used to report work-based learning. It's essential for the early start and successful certification of the end of year one data collection to identify and establish relationships with the staff involved in the data collection as early as possible. And in end of year one, this includes site staff, registrars, program specialists, CTE staff, site administrators, and student system support staff. The data collection again begins on May 7th. However, the end of year submissions should already be underway. We surveyed some LEAs from fall 2, and those who had certified well in advance of the deadline almost always started early. So here we have a table listing the submission activity that will help you to complete EOY 1 prior to the deadline. This table may help you recognize which data sets are complete and can be submitted now, which data sets should be submitted now even if they are not complete, and data sets that may in fact be better off submitting later. Understanding the processing method and the operational keys will allow you to submit targeted data to finish incomplete submissions and assist in troubleshooting knowing the expected transaction behavior. Okay, the CERT123 error is the most troublesome error in end of year one. The CERT123 is the missing or invalid student course section completion record for a CTE completer. The CalPad CFS, the code sets, and most importantly, the valid code combinations document will help you to resolve any CERT123 errors. The valid code combinations document is particularly helpful because CERT123 errors are often the result of capstone course and completer pathway misalignment. And the valid code combinations document is where you is your go-to resource to determine alignments. It takes the submission of 4 out of the 5 file types in end of year one for CalPads to identify a CERT123. And this is one reason why it's the most troublesome error in end of year one. Resolution of this error may have cascading effects and can require the resubmission of multiple files. The cascading effects that a single error can have is one of the reasons we recommend submitting your data early in the submission window, or even prior to the submission window. For end of year one, there are 5 aggregate reports. There are also multiple supporting reports, which provide more specific counts or detailed lists of students who were counted in the aggregate reports. One of the benefits of submitting the data early is that you'll have the report data available when the snapshot begins. Disseminating the reports with key data to the relevant stakeholders may elicit buy-in for the remainder of the end of year collections. Remember, the arrows show how reports link to other reports, and the reports in green are aggregate reports. These are reports that must be reviewed and verified in order to certify the end of year one data collection. And the reports in orange are supporting reports. These help you to interpret the aggregate reports and reconcile them with your student information system. And the arrows show you which supporting reports support which aggregate reports. So with these arrows, report 3.15 supports report 3.14, report 3.20 supports report 3.19. And so on. So the arrows show you how the reports link to other reports. Please review the end of year one data mapping guides in the CalPADS user manual when reviewing your reports. This resource will assist you with the data elements that are used in the counts for aggregate reports and will assist data stewards with reports review and verification by identifying source systems and source documents for verification. The end of year reporting roadmaps are also contained in the CalPADS user manual. So if we're on the landing page, the report mapping guides are on the right-hand side of that, those orange headings. And if we click View Details, it will take us to the report mapping guides. And there are report mapping guides for snapshot and ODS reports, SELPA reports, county authorizing LEA reports, accountability and monitoring and submission reports. The snapshot and ODS reports are mostly what we're interested in, and we'll have report mapping guides for end of year one listed here. We have them for the remainder of the data collections as well, and I will point to them, or I'll mention them as we get into those sections, but this is where you'll find all of the report mapping guides in the CalPADS user manual. All right, report 3.19, CTE completer count, is the most high-profile data set for end of year one. The counts are required for Perkins funding and include measures for the College and Career Indicator on the California School Dashboard. For most LEAs, the completer count can be estimated up until the final grading period of the academic year if the relevant files are submitted now. More importantly, identifying misalignment between completer pathways and capstone courses can be identified after the files are submitted that report completers. We do understand that most, if not all of you, have responsibilities outside of CalPADS. So in addition to the primer, there is a myriad of training and guidance resources available now. The CalPADS user manual and CSIS YouTube training channel are accessible to everyone. Links to the relevant training material have been included on this slide. If you are new or just need a refresher prior to the submission, I encourage you to take advantage of the resources available. For those of you who have access to the Bridge LMS, live EOY trainings via webinar begin today with this training and continue through May. And in the CalPADS user manual, we have the EOY roadmap as well as the pages for the STEM, SCSC, CTE, and work-based learning records. We have our EOY data population and reporting and certification trainings on the CSIS YouTube training channel, and the relevant flash communications, as well as SCTE, CTE, and course completion FAQs. This does conclude our discussion of end of year one. Are there any questions in chat that we should address, or how are we doing, guys?
So there was a question about that gap in the window collection. Maybe you could hint on what can be done during that time frame.
So this gap right here. Okay, so we are currently in this gap, and we will have slides. We have a slide for end of year one that shows activity that can be done now. So you can submit your STEM records for teachers that are already in the master schedule and assigned to courses in fall one now. You can submit SENR records for student movement, so for transfers, exits, completers, as soon as that information is available. You can submit course records for the entire academic year that are in the master schedule now. So we do have some submission activity and data population activity in each of the EOYs that you can kind of start completing now or complete during the window in between Fall 2 and end of Year 1. I would also encourage you to go to the data discrepancies page in CalPads. This is the staging environment, so it's not live CalPads, but the data discrepancies page does work in the production environment. I would encourage you to go to the data discrepancies page and filter for each of the end of year collections and determine errors that you are able to start working to resolve now. A lot of those errors will indicate missing records, and so they will indicate to you what you are able to begin submitting. Do you have anything to add to that, Kyron?
I also would like to point out a section in the report mapping guide for continuous work that should give some a laundry list of things you could do during that gap.
So we do have, this is the EOY reporting roadmap, and we have the continuous CalPads work section here. And we do have a list of about 5 actions or 5 types of actions that you can take now. So regularly updating data in your student information system in CalPads, monitoring special education student movement and possible needed meetings, preparing and testing students for the summative LPAC, CASP, and California Science Test, CAST. And then attending the relevant trainings. If your SIS has the functionality and you have the know-how, you are able to run local validation inquiries as well to address potential missing data in your SIS. Any other questions we should address now? How are we doing, guys? Let's see. Okay, so we're seeing no DD results for any of them. Oh, that's a good point, Shelly. Make sure you set the error severity to all. And click the apply filters button in each submission. All right. Yes. So EOI 1, the course section completion, student course section completion, SCTE, and work-based learning records are only required for secondary grades 9 through 12. The course section and student course section completion are optional for grades 7 and 8, but if you report any course data for grades 7 and 8, you have to report all course data for grades 7 and 8. And we will discuss that in much more detail in the EOY 1 reporting and certification training as well.